Happy New Year, Slate Church. Today is the first day of 2023. And how awesome is it that we actually get to start that off on a Sunday, gathering together like this digitally. Listen, it's gonna be a good year. God's got lots in store for us as a church. We're gonna look back over this past year, over the year of 2022. We're gonna talk a little bit about God's faithfulness and all the stuff that he's done in our church and through our church in this last year. And I'm really excited to do that. So we're gonna do a little bit differently today. We're gonna shake things up a little bit for this first day of 2023. We're gonna take this camera, we're gonna go over to Pastor Brandon and Emma's house today. We're gonna chat with them a little bit about what God has done in this past year. We're gonna have some time of worship, and then we're just gonna take a little bit of time to pause and reflect on all that God has done. I don't know about you, but this last year was full. It was just a full year, full of great things. As a church, it was full of great things in my life personally. I wonder how your last year was. It's great to take time to reflect at the beginning of a new year. Pause and look back on the last year. Also, don't mind the Christmas tree. Or like the stockings and stuff. Anyways, why don't you guys come along with me today? We're gonna throw some shoes on, and while I'm doing that, why don't you toss in the chat, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching it on demand, how was your last year? How was 2022 for you? Do you have a good 2022? God do some like crazy things in your life? Was it kind of just like a standard year of growth, of building into yourself? Like what did 2022 look like? And how was it for you? Also, holy moly, don't mind the whiteness. You know what I didn't do in 2022? I didn't get a tan. Maybe that'll be my my resolution for 2023. Spend some more time outside, bro, because just looking crazy pasty over here. I will catch up with you guys in just a minute. We're gonna go grab Mel, go grab Pastor Brandon, Pastor Emma, and then we're gonna chat a little bit more. We are at Pastor Brandon, Pastor Emma's house. We'll flip this around so you can see. Anyways, it's New Year's Day. Hold on, there we go. It's New Year's Day, and we are gonna pick them up and start our recap of just some of the stuff that God's been doing this year. So why don't we give them a knock on the door, see if they're ready to go.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Are you guys a stay up till 12 crew, or are you sleeping before midnight?
Always up till midnight. You gotta ring in the new year.
If you're with people. I'd rather go to bed.
You'd rather go to bed. You got a Cobb salad from Chick-fil-A?
It's the best.
Really?
It's the best salad.
Resolution.
Chick-fil-A is a part of my New Year's resolutions.
For sure.
More of it.
But I have a couple questions for you guys.
Are we in the shot?
Yeah, we're kind of going
Hey there.
Yeah, that's
just
good.
around. All right, with it being New Year's Day, we want to take some time to look back on the last year. And so we got some photos and stuff that we're going to jump into in a little bit, but I want to ask you guys some rapid fire questions that don't need to be fast answers. Take your time with them. First question is, what's your favorite moment in church life from this past year?
Emma's a faster thinker than I am.
Yeah, and I'm thinking slow.
Yeah,
That's right.
She went to bed late last night, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a late night.
It was a late
It was a late night. I think one of the best moments, I think we'll keep coming back to this, but I think one of the best moments was when we bought the building, like the purchase came through of what's now Slate Center, and that was pretty cool. Just seeing like the word of God kind of come to pass in that.
Yeah.
God was sharing it.
What you?
I took the obvious one, Brandon.
Yeah, I don't know, like there's a whole bunch of things that we've done behind the scenes that like are super fun. And I guess the church would have saw like the video around our values, which was cool. You know, a bunch of like team stuff behind the scenes. We did like a leadership retreat for all of our leaders, like Slate leader or local leaders and all the rest. Like that was a lot of fun. I think like as a pastor, as you talk to other pastors and you hear statistics, like you start to expect certain trends. And so one of the like highlights for me is like every year for like the past decade of pastoring, you expect to see like a big growth in your church in September, and then it kind of peters off until January. You see a bit of a bump, and then it kind of goes down all the way until September, and you just see this like same thing happen year after year. And I've always disliked that churches just like embrace it, like that's just the way church life goes. But it kind of is, except for this year. One of the things that just warmed my heart was like last weekend of November, we have the biggest Sunday we've had across all of our locations since our launch in September.
Yeah. What are some of the largest lessons that God has taught you guys personally this past year?
You go, Brandon.
I'm making a turn.
Oh my gosh.
you just cut someone off?
I think that
I'm sorry that my first assumption was that was your fault.
that's okay. I'm used to it.
Emotional, damn it!
Biggest lesson that I've learned this year, that God's taught me this year, just the idea of consistency. I think I'm pretty confident in the idea that like one of the biggest life lessons that we can put into practice is just consistency. I'm just seeing across the life of our church, the life of our family, my own life, that the more consistent I am in small things, like it just produces like wonderful results. There's that formula of like time plus consistency plus growth equals radical growth over time, and exponential growth. And I've seen that in my own life, but I'm seeing it in our church, and even just in like character. We put so much pressure on ourselves, and we overestimate. This is a quote that I heard, but we overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year. We overestimate what we can do in a year, but underestimate what we can do in 5 years.
Yeah.
We overestimate what we can do in a decade and underestimate what we can do in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's just about like, put your hand to the plow, don't look back, keep going, and just remain faithful.
Okay, let's see what we got here. What is something that you are most thankful for in this past year?
I think I'm really thankful for like our staff and our volunteers and local leaders and like team leads and stuff like that. All these people leading in.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much happening that like we don't even have our hand directly on. Like I think of like youth and how that's going. It's amazing what the youth team has been doing this year. Youth leaders. I'm just so thankful that there's a place where all these youth are going every single week, learning about God, building community, all this stuff. There's local stuff happening all across our city all the time, serving, meeting needs in our community, like hanging out, learning God's word. Like there's stuff happening all the time that my hand isn't directly on, but that God is just working through, and I think that's a really cool thing that we've seen this year that I'm thankful for.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are. We finally made it to Slate Center. We're in the studio. We got some people kind of milling about. We're gonna look back over some photos and videos from this past year of all that God has done, and just hear a little bit from you guys about some of your reactions. I don't think you've seen really a lot of these photos that we put together, so it'd be a bit of a live reaction, but also hearing a bit about what you guys thought from this past year. So we want to start off talking about our values. Back in February, we took time to rewrite our values as a church, and it's funny, the photo that we've got here on the screen is actually just like, we quickly drew up some values on the right side of the board. Do you guys remember this? Just like real fast. We were like, what are some things that God's been doing in our church? We wrote them all out. And then we took like a full day to process through the values. And we came back to all these values that were the same ones that we just put down initially. What was that process like for you guys leading our team through that rewriting values? And why did we do that? And can you speak to some of that stuff?
Yeah, I think when I even see this list now, like I remember we went on this retreat with our team to work through the values. And it just felt so cohesive, like coming together, that there was like a like-mindedness in the room. There was, we all kind of come in preparing ourselves, praying, those sorts of things. And it's amazing how many things kind of came aligned there.
Yeah.
I mean, coming out of this season of pandemic and kind of taking so many pieces of church and putting it online and doing all of these different pieces, we were just feeling like, okay, there's some new vision coming out here. There's some new direction. We wanted to have the church and the values be reflective of who we are as a church now.
Yeah.
And it's cool looking back on these because it's amazing how those have kind of led us into what we're looking at right now.
I'll give you a screenshot of the mind map that we came up with on this retreat.
Yeah.
Just to like show how much work we actually put into it.
So much work.
And it is funny that literally we just started drawing lines from the very first list we wrote down to, honestly, like the pandemic changed our church in like such a positive way. Like a lot of great things happened during that time that deepened our sense of wanting to make disciples. And so, I mean, this trip, this leaders retreat to Collingwood with our lead team was just
Yeah.
like pivotal for our church.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun too. Like I think it was a real good bonding time for the lead team that we had just sort of put together recently to come together and be able to spend some time together. Remember we did some like snowshoeing and stuff, and there was just a moment, there's like a photo here, like just doing stupid stuff. We were running down the hill in the snowshoes and just like so much joy.
I remember you guys doing this. I was very pregnant, so I couldn't go snowshoeing. So I was like alone in this house that was made for like more people than just one person. And then this huge VHS collection or something like that. And so I remember like pulling out these old VHS, trying to sort out. I couldn't get the VCR to work, but I just spent the afternoon alone. But it looks like it was a lot of fun.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, we broke out from the rest of the group and we just bombed the hill.
It was a blast.
There's all these people skiing by us, and Jared and I are just on our snowshoes.
Remember that guy that made fun of us for snowshoeing when everybody was skiing? He's just like, have a great day, guys.
That was so much fun.
Okay, so the beginning of the year, we rewrote the values, and one thing that you guys have been praying into for a long time, and we talked about this in the truck, is actually like a space for our church. And through the beginning of the year, we were looking at all kinds of different spaces. So just a couple photos, and we'll throw them up for everybody watching, like a couple photos of going through, like Ben and Jamie had like his real estate hat on and just like walking us through just all these like
this place is chopped up into like 14 different.
Oh, the blue.
This was just outside of our budget. And I remember going around and, well, this picture in particular.
So bad.
You look and there's like mold in the ceilings, and the other real estate agent's like, you just like wash it up. It'll be okay.
Not a problem.
And we were like, can you imagine our studio in this space?
I'm trying to dream.
We're trying to like justify. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that it just shows like, I don't know, the miracles that we walked into in 2022. Like when you're looking at this at the beginning of the year, and I think it's always fun to recall at the end of 2021 or near the end of 2021, I just got that prophetic word that as I was pregnant, God was saying like with the birth of this child, you'll have a building as a church. And and it was just like, how is that going to happen? These are the buildings we were looking at.
So bad.
And it's like, how's that going to happen? Like, God, what are you doing? I don't see how there's a way forward here.
Yeah, we thought we would. I mean, this was the top contender. We saw a bunch of other places as well, but this place we thought, you know, we're gonna lease out 4 of the units, and we're gonna just like have our offices in one and studio. And you just think at the place that we find ourselves now, and we're still able to lease parts of the building away, but we're also able to just like coexist with the Bible college, and like it's just incredible to see what God's done in a short amount of time.
Yeah. And it was cool because it was in this season that we were also starting to have conversations with EBC, and Heart for the House was kind of happening. And talk a little bit about that season of like, that was a huge moment in our church. What did that look like for you guys? How are you processing through that? What do you remember about that time?
I think we just saw like God working through his kingdom. Like there was such like a shift to this kingdom mentality of like a win for the kingdom, a win for Slate, a win even for EBC with the building and those sorts of things. Like it was just kind of like pretty cool to see that shift of, okay, God is at work here in his kingdom, and we get to just step into that and follow into that. So that it kind of broadened our perspective beyond just like, okay, we could use something like a space like these buildings we were looking at, to like, oh, God is moving and working, and we just get to step faithfully into those things.
We had a bit of a goal that we needed to hit in order to actually purchase the building through Heart for the House. And so I remember being a little bit nervous, but also knowing that if God had set this up, like we didn't actually have too much to worry about.
Yeah, and that Heart for the House actually was a bit of a miracle. And by a bit, I mean a giant miracle.
Yeah. This was one Sunday. This is what was given and pledged. And it's actually, in retrospect, this is the number that we put up on the screen, but it's 20,000 higher than this. And I think the most impressive thing about this number is there was a couple of large gifts within this number this year, which, I mean, for those couples that gave, you know who you are, we know who you are, and we're just really thankful for you. But the thing we're most thankful for, of course, is we had the most unique givers out of any Heart for the House. And so just to know that, like, the people that have been developing that heart for our church over the course of this past year, I mean, it just grew, and that's really encouraging. Really encouraging.
Had to have been like just a confidence boost every year, as it is with like God being in it, but also just to know that so many people in our church were behind just that desire to see God move through this partnership. And it's amazing because you look at the space now, like with the Bible college versus some of the things that we were looking at before. It's like,
I mean, we're like right now filming
we're like
in this
sitting
space.
in the miracle. It's pretty cool. Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And then we've got some photos here too. Like this was a big one that kind of as we were walking through, just dreaming for the space. I remember when you saw this, It's a photo of what used to be, I guess, the tabernacle. This was kind of an important photo because it just kind of reframed a little bit of our understanding of what God could do through some of the things that seemed to be one way, and it's like, man, God can do whatever He wants to do in a space like this, and so
we still want to see this happen. We get a lot of questions about, are we going to renovate the space? And the answer is yes. The how and when are still question marks.
Yeah.
And we just keep trying to follow God's voice and His leading for our church community. And even for what's needed here for the Bible College. And as we look at this photo, I mean, we keep referring to these vague conversations, big conversations we're having behind the scenes, but whether or not they happen, like if they happen or if they don't, will really impact the timeline of this and what we do and how we do it and all the rest.
Yeah.
But this is the dream. I mean, I think we'd love to see it restored to its former glory. You know?
So many people worshiping God in there.
Yeah,
it's cool.
so cool.
And then the practicals of it was just like a lot of fun having our church kind of walk through the space. Like this video of just people kind of checking it out when we walked everybody through for the first time. And just excited for all the
people
new
being
faces.
able to see it. I just remember the kids that night. Like there were a bunch of people who brought their kids through, and it was like they were all in one classroom, like hanging out and doing whatever, and just the excitement and seeing the generations like that.
It's really cool.
That kind of refocus. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then buying the trailer to kind of move some of the stuff over.
How funny is this? The same week that we signed off on our very first permanent space.
Right.
Like we had not bought anything before. This is 5 years into our church. We're a mobile church, and we had not bought a trailer for our church yet. Like we had
renting trucks,
renting U-Hauls, renting trucks, and all of a sudden, the very first week that we have a building of our own, like a set location, we go out and we're like, let's buy the trailer.
Time to get a trailer.
We had ordered it months before, but just the irony. Like God's like, hey, there you go, your trailer and a building. That's
but it was
amazing.
useful because like we loaded up with all the stuff from the old office and like took a bunch of trucks over with all the interns in the summer and started to kind of establish.
It was a good time of year to move.
Pretty significant.
Let's be honest. Now we're in January. It's a good time of year to move.
Yeah, and just all the people that came and were a part of that to
so cool.
Put it all together. Little Theo and Claire helping out move some of the tables and stuff. Just really cool to.
Oh, these are great photos.
See. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And then we did some work like in the space, like Jake and Alex and David and a bunch of other people came through and just put a lot of time and effort creating the studio. This is a cool video of Jake kind of tossing the paint out on the floor to roll it all out.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
This is the first of many to come. And there's going to be a lot more of you that get to be a part of what happens here next, which I think is really cool. Like, we had to do some really quick stuff before the college semester started here at EBC. And so we quickly got this up with the resources of a few, but there's going to be real opportunity for a lot of us to get involved. And
it's just cool how it all kind of comes together.
Some great shoots.
Yeah, already it's been so helpful and useful.
Yeah, and then that kind of like leads us in, I don't want to jump ahead too much. That kind of leads us into the summer, right?
Yeah.
So we moved everything in here and now we're in the summer. And one of the things that you guys really emphasized as a church was church's family over the summer and building this strong like family core. And so we did a lot of like family events and big events as a church where we just got people together and hung out. You think about the parties in the park and we had the party on the block here. And so here's just like a little bit of a recap through some of that. Cool to be in the space and then just to see everybody be able to like.
That was such a fun day.
The families team did such a great job.
I was just amazed how great that was for our church community, but then also the community at large. To be able to come in. Like there's nothing like that it's just free. It's like, come, here's snacks for your kids. Here's like tickets they can go get a prize. Here's, cotton candy. Like there's nothing like that's totally free. And so what a cool way to serve.
And it was so cool seeing just all the people from the different generations serving behind all the different booths and tables and stuff. And you had, Paul getting dunked in the dunk tank and Gary was running like the snack stand and all this stuff. So
had the band playing live.
Band was playing live. That was a blast.
Yeah.
And then we look back even like this is kind of in that church's family vibe. So this is back last family day,
Winter
like
Olympics.
the family like Olympics
Our kids
and everything.
were so sad.
Was this still? Was there a lockdown or something happening? Or
I don't remember.
We had to be outside for it.
We had to be
couldn't
outside
have a
for
group
it.
that big indoors.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
That was just last year.
Yeah.
I remember it. Like we actually were able to invite some neighbors to this. They had a wonderful time.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did so much this past year to instill that value of family.
Yeah.
And it just drew like a larger number of people because we've grown, but drew them closer.
Yeah.
And you just walk into our lobby on a Sunday previous to this past year versus now,
Yeah.
and it like it's night and day.
It's a different feel.
Yeah, we're gonna keep building that for sure.
Things like the bonfire out at the
yeah.
Yancey's farm where, and again, everybody will be able to see these, but just videos of everybody hanging
Yeah, it
out.
was great.
Yancey's Farm is gonna be this like special place in everybody's hearts from
Yeah,
the church. Like,
That's right.
Party in the PMs, where we're just
Yeah.
giving out food from the barbecue to all these like students that were coming and hanging out and getting to know each other. So
you give it free
It's such a
food,
good
students
vibe.
will show up.
yeah, they'll be there.
It doesn't have to be good food.
No.
Things
It
like
was
L
good.
that happened
Yeah.
in the
The L brunch.
yeah
L
in the
brunch.
library
Just
there.
snuck that into the end of
It
2022.
was great. And then things like men's event that happened too.
Yeah.
This is like a little recap video of all the like Hawaiian
Yeah,
dad
it was such a
vibe
good event.
men's event.
I had to watch this from afar. I wasn't even able to make it, but again,
you were
it's this
away.
kind of stuff that like we're gonna look back and I love that Gary's outfit, just amazing.
Yeah, Micah came and
Hip waders. Oh, it's so much fun.
yeah, just a blast. A little tug of war.
Oh my God,
those
working
calves,
hard.
holy.
Working hard for that.
Mitch's mustache.
Yeah, just a blast. And that kind of leads us like sort of out of some of that summertime. And another huge thing that happened like on this idea of church as family, a major thing, a shift in our church was how much emphasis we put on locals in this past
Yeah.
year. That was a really big thing that you guys had emphasized amongst the lead team and amongst our church. And it's been really cool to see, like here's just a bit of a collage from just 20
Yeah.
of like the many locals that are being
Yeah.
led by all kinds of different people, different ages and stages of life.
Yeah.
Another like quick photo here is the some of the student locals, like
Oh,
they
this
went
is
on a
photos
retreat
from it?
together. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
so
so
just
cool.
a photo of them all around a table here. This is one where kind of like a younger local met up with an older local, and they kind of got to
Super
get to know
cool.
each other a little bit. I think it was Kim's local and Gary and Nancy's local. They all got together. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But that's a bit, just a photo of that. And it's cool that this stuff is
Yeah.
happening like in people's homes all throughout the week, and we don't
Yeah.
always see that. But it's pretty incredible.
In fact,
yeah.
I sometimes think that this is like a better representation of our church. Not that gatherings aren't important, they're vitally important. But like this is what people are gonna remember so much of our church being.
Yeah.
I'm like talking as if we're like 100 years past, but like I want more photos being posted online about these living room sessions because I mean this is us being the church,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I
it
think
brings
this
so
is
much depth,
yeah.
right?
I think this is going to church just as much as going on Sundays
Totally.
is going to church.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you guys did it like a whole camping trip with your
Yeah.
local, which
Yeah.
is cool.
Camping
Like,
That was a lot of
It was
fun.
great.
yeah, that's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's just been cool things that came out of locals as well, like the Gingrich boys that did that like fundraiser
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
all
that's
kinds of
right.
like,
Stayed in bed all
stayed in bed all
day.
day.
Yeah.
It's cool, just like all of these different things that have come out of these stories that
Yeah.
have come out of our church through
Yeah.
people just becoming more aware of each other and rubbing shoulders and spending time together. And
Close
so,
relationships
yeah,
forming. Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really
Cool.
cool. Yeah, it's great stuff. One kind of last thing to sort of close it all out. This is a little bit more like heady, but we put a collage together of all the different series that we did as a church.
Okay.
So some of those title cards. And so if you remember
Yeah.
back to
Cool.
like things like A Deeply Formed Life, and
Yeah.
we talked about
Spiritual
our
formation.
formation. This is Church Volume 3, about what it means to be the church.
Yeah.
Set Apart, Four Loves, the fall kickoff, No One Else Is Coming.
Yeah.
Quick little series on Philemon. We're in Advent, Out of Pocket. So I just, as we were putting this together, it was just really cool to look back on all the things that we've, even just practically taught our church and walked
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
through as a community in this past year. Any reflections on some of that stuff? Even just like thinking to the next year of what we're
Yeah.
stepping into.
I think a big thought on my mind has been the disciples walk with Jesus for 3 years. They live with him, eat with him, study with him, serve with him. Like that's a local. But then they also learned from him. They were taught by him. And they were remarkably different from the moment they met Jesus to 3 years later.
Yeah.
And so we just started asking the question, like, what does it look like for our church to grow within a 3-year period? And what are we teaching them? And are we covering the fullness and the wholeness of the gospel? And are we touching on the things Jesus touched on? And so, I mean, I look at a bunch of sermon series like that, and I go like, man, we really did it this past year. Like, it wasn't fluff. Like, we went deep, and we talked about some crazy things as well. Like,
Yeah.
things that, honestly, like after I was done speaking, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, like, this is it. Like, somebody's gonna blow us up for this. Or, but like, coming at it from a biblical perspective and still being filled with grace and love and truth. And
Yeah.
I'm really proud of our church over this past year. I think one reflection for the next year is just it's going to be more of the same, like growing in our depth of knowledge of who God is. And
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. Great. I mean, we can kind of close it on that. We got a couple of like quick little things, just like surprise, nice like group photo after the Christmas production a couple weeks ago. It was just a lot of fun.
It's great.
And then just some of that, like one really cool thing that changed a lot in this past year was just the volunteer culture and just the joy that people had volunteering and jumping in and being a part of things.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of fun.
That the team from the Christmas production was in that room like all day.
Yeah.
just eating food. There were six.
Just stunk.
Six
The room just stunk.
Yeah, it was.
It smelled good, but
interns
food.
from the past summer,
interns.
just everybody that like
so
came
great.
was
great.
helping out over the summer.
Guys.
Trying to think of what else we got here.
Yeah.
A very weird photo of Paul. We actually looking back there, we had a lot of weird photos of Paul. But listen, guys, it's been a really cool year, and what a cool thing to be able to look back over all that God has done. And I think just being able to kind of sit with you guys here today, I just want to say on behalf of a lot of people in our church, thank you for your emphasis on all the right things as you've been leading us as a church. Like to look back at what God has done, it's come through His faithfulness, and that's really what this whole day is about, is talking through God's faithfulness. But also, like He asks us to be faithful, and you guys have been really faithful in what God has placed in front of you. And I'm kind of speaking on behalf of a lot of other people in our church, and I know people on the other side of this camera and all kinds of things. Thank you guys for your faithfulness in what God has done, but also just focusing on the right stuff in this past season. And I'm really, really excited to see what God is going to do in this next year, and I'm really, really grateful for you guys. And I know our whole church is. So.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Love you guys.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to go grab some coffee, actually, and so we'll grab a camera, we'll go get some coffee, and then we'll come back here for worship in just a few moments.
Sounds good.
All right, we just wrapped up our shooting here. I'm gonna grab Pastor Brandon, Pastor Emma, and we are gonna go grab a bit of a coffee, and we're gonna flip this room around, come back, and we'll do some worship as a church, because what's a Sunday without worship? Still a Sunday and still really good, but we gotta do worship. So we're gonna do that, but first we're gonna go grab some coffee with Pastor Brandon, Pastor Emma.
We should put that in.
That was good. How'd you guys feel about that?
It's good.
That was good.
Very good.
It's been a great year. Whoa, we're super sideways.
Oh, so sorry. It's my first day.
Yeah, it's great. First day on the job. First and last.
Yep, first and last. All right, back in the front seat. Just cozy up.
We got back in like normal people.
Yeah. All right, so we've looked back at the last year a little bit, and we're gonna look ahead to this coming year. What are you guys most excited about or most anticipating in this coming year?
I think we'll see God continue to surprise us. Like, there's no reason for me to believe otherwise. And so as much as I'm like, I can anticipate and plan and think through things coming up this year, and of course we should and we do, I'm just also feeling pretty positioned to be like, okay, God, like wherever you are taking us as a church, we are going after that.
It's
and
really
that's
good.
what we're doing.
What's something that you guys are praying over our church for this new year?
I think I'm praying that people would continue to lean on God. I know that sounds so simple, but I think in our Western society, postmodern society, we're just so quick to lean on ourselves, and it's just a focus on self, and that puts so much pressure on us and weight that we literally can't handle. Like, we can't bear that weight. And so the prayer, I think, would be to continually in every season, changing seasons, people getting married, people having kids, people starting school, people doing all these things, that it wouldn't just turn into like, I have to have this all figured out and God's like on the side, but that it's like, no, everything is surrendered to Him.
Yeah.
And that's the main focus, I would say.
Time to get some coffee. Yeah, I'm gonna get a medium decaf regular, a medium chai tea, a medium iced coffee.
What's one thing that you want to see each person in our church grow in this year?
I hope that everybody grows in their awareness that they are a disciple of God, disciple of Jesus.
I think we could always use more faith, more obedience in that faith. Just trusting God. We don't have to get confused about everything. We can just it can be simple. And that doesn't mean uneducated. That doesn't mean that you're not leaning in and asking questions, good questions, but like, it also doesn't have to be so complicated.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, guys, before we head back in for worship, thank you so much for answering those questions and looking back. It's been a really great year.
It's been fun.
It's been a great year.
Yeah.
This year's gonna be quite literally the best year ever.
Yeah. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
It's great. All right, let's go do some worship.
Church, as we start off this new year, why don't we remind ourselves of God's faithfulness? I'm calling on the God of Jacob, whose love endures through
Man, what a great time of worship, and just a great opportunity for all of us to look back on this last year. God is so good. He's been so faithful to us as a church. Thank you to Candace and the worship team for just leading us in that time of worship. And man, I'm so excited about what God is going to do in this next year. Don't let these moments and these days pass by without pausing to thank God for all that he's done, and even without pausing just to look forward at what he's going to do in the future. I'm so pumped about what this year is going to bring. Also, big thank you to Pastor Brandon and Pastor Emma again, just for being such great pastors and leaders and leading us so well in this church. Listen, today's still a Sunday, and so we want to talk a little bit about generosity. There's a couple of different ways that are going to pop up on the screen below me to different ways that you can give, but this year we want to really be giving into what God is doing and pouring out of what he's given us back into building his church. There's so much that was done in this past year, but it wouldn't have happened if it didn't take each one of us giving sacrificially, not just of our time and of our effort and of our talents, but also of our finances, giving sacrificially into what God is doing. And I heard once that vision moves at the pace of its resources, and the resources that we're giving into what God is doing. And so let's be expectant of what God is doing, but let's be giving into what God is doing. Also, if you're new and this is your first time tuning in, man, God has so much for you in this next year as well, and we would love to get connected with you. And so you can fill out a Connect card, slatechurch.com/connect. We'd love to hear more of your story. We'd love to find a place for you to serve in church, to get community around you, people around you. We'd love for you to join a local. But man, let's have a great 2023. Let's have a great start to that. Maybe even just as we're closing the service, maybe you're on the other side of the camera and you're going I'm not excited about this new year, and I'm not really sure what it's going to bring. I want to just encourage you, whether you're excited about the new year, whether you're nervous about the new year, just pause today, even just on the back of reflecting as a church, pause today and say, God, would you be in this new year with me? Would you do something new in my life in this new year? Pray expectant prayers for what God can do in 2023. I'm excited about what he's going to do as a church, but I'm excited about what he's going to do in your life personally as well. Have a great rest of your week, guys. We'll see you live and in person back at Landmark, back at Maxwell's, back online next week, January 8th. Love you very much. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you soon.